Well, hi there, and welcome to MarsX3D, the evidence. And this is your buddy Dave over at MarsX3D, and we're going to go into live hang number 2 and hope for the very best in terms of no technical glitches and no old guy glitches, because they get increasingly common. Trust me on that one. Hey, there's Lane. How are you, buddy? It's good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. And, it'll be great if a few more people show up. And hey, if they don't, we'll just talk a little bit and call it a night or whatever we need to do. But there's been a lot going on in the anomalist community this week. Some of you may have seen my post about AI, artificial intelligence processing, and some of the mistakes that I can put into an image. And I have sworn off AI processed images, as I think most of the leading image processors have. Guys like Keith Laney, Neville Thompson, Neil Spence, and others. And all three of those guys are turning out some fantastic gigapans and gigamacros. Those are, of course, we call them GPans and GMAX. And for anybody who's an anomaly hunter, man, what a great resource. You can go to their various pages on Gigamacro and on Gigapan and find all kinds of fantastic stuff. There are literally hundreds of images that will take you pretty much of a lifetime to get through. It's all I can do just to keep up with the flow. And there's Ramona. She showed up. How are you, my dear? It's great to have you on board, and hope you guys are full of questions. Otherwise, I'll just palaver on. It's one of the nice things as you get older is that you get garrulous. You can just talk and talk about everything and nothing at the same time. But anyway, things are going good up here in this little tiny village I live in New England. Had a ton of snow this past week. I think a lot of you did. And golly, what's the excitement in Lake Wobegon? Not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot that goes on where I live. I live very quietly in the woods. And in the summer times, I sit in my rocker on the porch with my shotgun across my lap and discourage salesmen and the occasional pigeon. Hi, Tony. Thanks for coming aboard, man. Good to see you. And from England, oh my gosh, man, you're staying up late. It's 11:30? Are you GMT, Tony? So it's at least 11:30. So thank you for staying up, and just hang in there, because with a little bit of luck, I'll put you right to sleep in no time at all. So we're all ready for springtime. We are so tired. I remember when I was a kid in Iowa, and those summers and winters there are almost unbearable. The winters go on, it seems like forever. And I remember as a little kid, I thought, winter's never going to end, is it? Long about February, everything would turn into black slush and gray snow and bitter cold, 10, 20 below. And it had lost all of its charm. And then long about March, end of March, the first crocuses will pop up through the snow. And what a beacon of hope those were. 11:30 p.m. for Tony. You're a brave man staying up that late. I'm lucky to make it to 10 or 11 o'clock my time anymore. I need my beauty sleep. Obviously, if I was getting my beauty sleep, I'd be sleeping 20 hours a day. But that's not the case. Anyway, wow. Let me see what else is going on around here. Of course, we don't discuss politics or religion on this channel. We leave that to the other people to fight and be ugly about. Who needs that in their lives? I mean, it's important to be engaged and understand where you stand and do what you need to do to make sure the right things happen. But on this channel, let's talk about Mars anomalies, or really almost anything else that you'd like to talk about. I'm game. I'm game. Try me. Redline just showed up. Hey, man. Nice to see you. Thanks for stopping in. And I want to urge all of you to pepper me with questions and see what I can come up with. Last week was, I think, a little freewheeling. Yeah, I got started unexpectedly. I got that figured out this week. At least I hope I do. And it was a little freewheeling. We kind of talked about, I kind of talked about all kinds of stuff. And I don't mind doing that. But I've got a lot of a lot of things to talk about. Lane is asking, did you see the footage from the Chinese Mars probe? Lane, I have not. I need to check that out. I've been negligent in that. Here's the problem is that I'm so busy Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, producing the episode for each week. It's a full days of work, and I'm not complaining. And no, it's not wah wah Dave. I love it. I have so much fun doing what I'm doing, but it does kind of whittle away at the time I have. I do spend time looking at all the fresh giga macros, mostly giga macros that my friends put up, examining them. And you'll see that many, if not most, of the finds on my channel are things that I've found. But I'm always ready to put up some good ones if someone else finds something and give them the credit, because, kudos to everybody for that. Don's here. Hey, Don. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for stopping by. And Ramona says she just listens to learns since you're retired. I'm retired too, Ramona, and I've only scratched the surface in learning. Some of you know I've embarked on a 2-year program of study on Neo-Ericksonian Neurolinguistic Programming. And it's kind of like verbal calculus mixed with verbal judo. And just doing it so I can sharpen up my skills as a presenter and communication, of course, with those that are close to me. And already it's been a terrific help. I just love the study, even though it sounds real geeky and technical, and to a certain extent it is, but it's just fun. It's just fun as you begin to discover language patterns. And anyway, let's see who else. And Gilbert's here. Gilbert Carmona. Hey, man. Well, thank you. You know, I'm glad to do this work. I love doing it. And I look forward to the show, too, as I put it together and as I voice everything and do all the timing and all those little technical things that happen in a video. It's a lot of fun. And I sure don't mind doing it. Redline says the Chinese are getting nice color pics. Ooh, I wonder if they're better than the garbage we're getting from NASA. And when I speak down about NASA, you have to understand, I really do appreciate the genius that they put on display each and every day there. There's some brilliant, brilliant people there. And putting a Mars Science Laboratory on Mars safely and letting it travel for years at a time and taking untold thousands of images, that's one hell of a feat. And the stuff that we're getting from the servers from NASA, JPL, and Caltech are, I think, purposely degraded images. But we're learning how to produce our own processing of the raw image files. And that's where you find the really sharp renditions that they don't share with the public. And if any of you aren't up for doing your own raw image processing, my friend Alan over at Mars the Second Generous has a tutorial on how to do that. And you know what? I haven't looked at it yet. My bad. Too busy. I will look at it and I will start processing my own. But meantime, Neil Spence and Neville Thompson and Keith Laney are all brilliant processors, making beautiful, beautiful giga macros. And I don't mind doing them, but man, these guys do such a good job. I just as long piggyback with them and, you know, take advantage of their terrific output. Oh, JSFBR Colonel, God bless you, brother. Thank you for showing up. The Colonel is way down there in Brazil, and I have tried to pronounce his name. I almost got it one time, and maybe sometime, Colonel, you can give me a phonetic, an English phonetic pronunciation of your name so that I can address you by more than just Colonel, although you worked hard in a long life of dedicated service to your country to attain that rank. So God bless you on that one. And, but yeah, I'd love to see those Chinese images. If you want to send some of them to me with a link or something to MarsX3D at gmail.com. The link's always down in the description. And let me read a couple of these comments. And oh yeah, Admiral Byrd, 1947. Tony's asking about that at the North Pole with a fleet of ships that were attacked by craft never seen before. And also our friend Alan is on. He says the third and final tutorial is coming Friday at 9 p.m. GMT. Very cool. Thanks for all that hard work, Alan. It's a wonderful thing that you're doing. And back to Tony. Yeah, Operation High Jump. Gosh, there's so much backstory to that. Of course, you're all aware, I think most of you are aware, of Project Paperclip at the end of World War II when Russia and the United States, and I think one or two other countries, Great Britain, purloined the top rocket scientists from Nazi Germany. That's how we got Werner von Braun. And all, I think we had, what did we have, 200? I take a grain of salt with that number. We had a bunch. And basically, NASA, it was started and comprised of Nazi scientists. Ta-da! And all of their big capacity submarines that they had developed at the end of the war effort were missing by the time we went in and took possession, or went into the country and kind of straightened things out. And the word is that they delivered all of their top officials to both Brazil and Antarctica, where their submarines had supposedly discovered entrances, deep entrances below the ice that led to long abandoned cities heated by thermal processes, 70-degree temperatures in there, and vast ancient cities. And of course, they spent a good part of the war looking for ancient technology, but we won't go into that. But I would steer you to the book by Stephen Quayle called Empire Beneath the Ice. Now, I love Stephen Quayle. His books do tend to go on a little longer than they maybe need to, but I'm not a millionaire like him, nor am I as dedicated and articulated like a python, articulate as Steve is. But that book will give you a good idea of what happened at the end of World War II when the Nazis went down and established their civilization and they called it New Schwabenland. And so at the time, Admiral Byrd went down with Operation High Jump, and as I understand this, there were destroyers and tenders and aircraft carriers, and I think some 4,700 military personnel. And long story short, a bunch of disc-shaped Nazi UFOs with Nazi cannons and Nazi insignia popped out of the water and just blew the fire out of the fleet with laser cannons and absolutely decimated the fleet. And so Admiral Byrd retreated to America with his tail between his legs, and you can read his debrief and also his filmed briefings on it. And he makes it very clear that there's technology down there that we can't really fight. The word is that Nominally, Germany lost the war, but actually they won the war. And they went into hiding to develop the Nazi regime down in New Schwabenland. Is that true? Eh, I think so, but I haven't been there, so I can't say for sure. Um, let's see. The Secret Space Force. Hi, Earl. Thanks for stopping by. And, it's interesting that President Trump started the Space Force. I have a feeling that this was part of the entire package of slow disclosure, and that giving it a public face will allow them to eventually release a bit more about the black space force, the secret space program, the SSP. And that's, oh boy, is that a can of worms. I don't know if we even want to go into that and open that can of worms up. But it seems to me that the SSP would be an excellent feeding and testing ground for candidates for the SSP. Finding people with the proper qualifications, proper psych profiles, uh, all of that stuff that they could put into training for the electrogravitic craft that we have. And we do have. Have you noticed that the Navy has been publishing patents for their zero gravity craft that look just like the triangular craft we've been seeing? Now, McDonnell Douglas, I believe, came up with the TR-3B many years ago called the Firefly. And I think that accounts for a great many of the sightings we see. But it's very interesting when you look at the patents that the Navy published. The triangular anti-gravity craft. The end. It says so right there. The thing that you need to understand is that by publishing these patents, they're saying this stuff is obsolete, folks. We got stuff way beyond this. And of course, the Navy was part and parcel about the early development of space vehicles for the SSP because they were already experts in producing submarines, which which are basically spacecraft, if you think about it. And with some slight modifications, those became troop carriers and aircraft carriers, that type of thing. Very interesting subject. And Earl's asking, what about Admiral Forrestal? I would like to have a lot more to tell you about Admiral Forrestal than I have available in my limited memory at this point. I know that he was part of the so-called Majestic 12 group that handled the relations between the off-world forces and the Eisenhower administration. And I don't know how much of that I believe, how much of that might be disinformation, but it is interesting to note the different people that were on it. Dr. Donald Menzel was one who did a tremendous amount. Oh, and I'm showing no data on the feed. Did I freeze up? Oh, there we're back. Okay, that's good. Dr. Donald Menzel was specifically tasked with disinformation, and as were others, I think. So who knows? We may never know until they finally declassify everything. James Thomas is asking, do you feel like JPL and NASA have archived all the real images and more that maybe we will get to view or will be used to explain things to the masses once full disclosure happens? I think, well, let's put it this way. If all of us were in NASA and we were getting some really crystal clear, really definitive pictures of ruins, architecture, machines, carving, and all the various other things that typify the remains of an ancient civilization. Well, I don't know about you, but I'd drive that rover over there and I'd have myself a good look and get pictures and I'd get stereo images of it. But those would be classified images which would not be released because of national security. Let's all say it together. National security, the great umbrella in which everything is tucked and hidden. I think it's entirely possible that as we get closer to publicly landing on Mars, that they will release more of these images. Now, they've just recently announced water on Mars, which we've known for years and years and years. And I think the next thing that they're going to do is they're going to announce microbial life. And after that, there'll be more advanced life. And then maybe after that, they'll begin to trickle out images and say, oh my gosh, look what we have found as we get very close to landing, actually putting public boots on the ground on Mars. So my long way around to say, yes, I think we will see those images eventually. And yeah, Randall, the Space Force might be a way of dodging disclosure. But I would have to say it is my belief the space is already heavily militarized. And we know that from China, from America, from Russia, from India, um, and whoever else is up there, that they're definitely militarizing space. So as long as we're a grade zero civilization, that's going to be a reality that we're going to have to deal with. You know, people are messed up. It's all about taking the high ground and killing the other guy. So maybe someday the light will go on. I don't know. And Dr. Stephen Greer talks about the zero gravity. Yeah, he does. His disclosure project, especially that National Press Club videos, which I think you can still find on YouTube, are really amazing. He did an amazing piece of work there. He's gone a little new agey for my personal taste, but he's an excellent creator and producer of what I think is very solid evidence for off-world intelligence visiting our planet. Uh, my personal feeling, my speculation, let me put it that way, is that many, if not most, of the UFOs that are being seen are actually time ships. They're not only interdimensional, they're time traveling. And I think there are great flocks of beings returning to see what's going to happen here, because I think we're coming up on some very profound Earth changes, whether those are man-made or natural, or it's a asteroid strike from space, whatever, or a combination of all of those, or something else we haven't even thought of. I think they're gathering because this is a really, really interesting time to be viewing the Earth. Plus, stop and think for a minute. Earth is a water planet. Water is one of the rarest elements available to people who are working in space, on the moons, on the asteroids, places where humans at least can't breathe atmosphere and they're exposed to hard vacuum. There's no food, there's no water, no oxygen. All of that stuff either has to be created in great volume where they live or brought in. So I believe there's ice mining going on, and I published a picture a few weeks ago of Dione, what looked like ice mining on Dione. And so water's at a premium, and we are a gorgeous planet. We are an absolute jewel in space. I think we're a tourist destination, frankly. We're out in the boonies. We're out in one of the spiral arms of the galaxies, and various races maybe have discovered this beautiful blue pearl way out on the fringe of the galaxy, and it's water everywhere. I think we're kind of a Shangri-La, except for the debased beings that populate the surface. Let me catch up with some of your comments. So, true feelings on the possibility of non-microbial life under the surface of Mars. We know, um, Gilbert, that um, we have extremophiles on Earth that exist from the deep, deep, deep smokers, the hot water vents, and deep abyss to the top of Mount Everest. So that's about a 12 and a half mile difference with, and we see life in the desert. We see life in Antarctica, in the ice, under the ice. We see it everywhere. Now, you said non-microbial, which would indicate to me that it's not your typical organic. In fact, not organic at all, that it might be a mineral based or based on some other system other than carbon. Sure, why not? I think life is the prime directive in space. Whatever the great universal mind is that created all this and sustains all this and stretched it all out, that life is a prime directive. We find that on Earth. We find it absolutely everywhere. And oh, yeah, geologist Phil Schneider. He was killed in '95 about the alien agenda. And boy, what a sad story that is. That was one of the first guys to be Phil Schneider, a heavy duty whistleblower. He was a geologist, and he worked for the government in the what are called DUMBs, deep underground military bases, which are extravagantly huge excavations of rock and earth and minerals and such, deep, deep, deep in the earth, creating these massive bases underneath. And he talks of a firefight when they were breaking through a tunnel in Dulce, New Mexico, and they broke into a tunnel where there were tall grays, and they had a firefight. And he said there were several score killed, and he himself was hit. He lost 3 fingers. He had a jagged scar up his chest, and you could see the injuries. I mean, why would he lie about that? I don't know. But he did a couple, maybe a half a dozen conference appearances. And then he was found, and of course his wife left him. He had death threats. Everybody hated Phil Schneider. And he was found in his home, strangled with surgical tubing, which is double tied behind his neck. Now, that's pretty tough to pull off, folks. If you're going to commit suicide, there are easier ways to do it. And that's real tough to pull off. So I think he was killed to silence him. He was warned, and there you go. Don is asking me, hey, Don, yeah, do you ever use Google Earth Pro? I tried it the other day and ran across 2 crazy anomalies off the coast of Antarctica. One looks like a 70-foot tall statue attached to a piece of bent sheet metal. Man, send me some snaps and send me some coordinates. Julia over at Julia Golly over at sarahmichelle.org just sent me some photos of that Sarah had uploaded from Google Earth from Antarctica just prior to her death, and with some really interesting anomalies in that. If I can figure out a way, and there is a way to do this, where you can create stereo images from Google Earth by just shifting the camera. And that's something, a learning curve I'd have to go through, but that'd be very cool to get some stereo shots of some of these Antarctic anomalies. I know Thomas Mikey Schroeder Jensen is heavy into that, has a bunch of them. His Facebook group, Marsman Space, features some of those. I don't. Yeah, Mars the second jet. There's Alan again. Think of all the trillions of dollars they've spent, and not so much as a microbe. Well, yeah. And Donald Rumsfeld was fixing to announce that they had lost over $3 trillion with a T dollars in the Pentagon on September 10th. 2011. And isn't it interesting how September 11th happened the next day and everybody forgot about $3 trillion that had been misplaced. Well, that's enough of a budget, folks, to build almost anything you can imagine. Let's see what else we got. Was Nixon part of MJ-12? I don't think so. Maybe he was. I think they only read in each president according to what they thought he might need to know. And that we understand that there are clearances that go way above uh, top secret. And the president, I think, is only allowed to know what he needs to know. And that's it. Uh, More like a zoo. You know, Earl, he's asking, do you believe in the Nordic aliens? I'm not aware of ever having seen one, but they have been discussed ever since George Adamski had his famous encounters back in the 50s. And I think it's likely. I think it's entirely likely that the humanoid form, from an engineering standpoint, is very efficient, very effective. Bipedal, two grasping appendages, cranial region where you have the mass nerve center, and you have your stereo vision attached there. I think that there are human types all over the place in the universe. Some mostly like us, others really not so much. But do I believe in Nordics? I haven't met one yet. My understanding is that they're tall, they're incredibly good looking, and they have piercing blue eyes. Now, there is one person who I suspect was a Nordic, and that was Maria Orsic, Orsic. And if you Google her, you'll see pictures of her. She was with the Vril Society and the Thule Society, and she was a psychic along with a group of other psychics who allegedly were given the plans for anti-gravity craft and weapons and other things that the Nazis used. Uh, Maria Orsic, I know the first time I saw a picture of her, uh, I was staggered because, well, I have worked with really incredibly beautiful women all my life in my job. I've been very fortunate in that regard. Uh, and when I first saw the image of Maria Orsic, I was staggered. She is probably one of the most beautiful women I have ever seen. Was she in Nordic? I don't know. Valiant Thor, another one who Adamski talked about and of whom we have pictures, was another possible Nordic. But I really don't know. Let's look at some more comments here. And hey, Lee, yeah, finally got the internet connection working after a fashion. And yeah, and we got, I don't know about the oranges. That's a new one on me, but I wouldn't doubt it, Colonel. I know they're tall grays, short grays, mantids, reptilians of all colors, all different kinds. And Don says, I can send you the GPS coordinates if you want. That'd be great, man. Don, it's MarsX3D at gmail.com. I'd love to see them. I don't know how soon I can do anything with them, but okay, I see the coordinates there. I don't know if I'll be able to copy and paste those from the chat feed or not. I'll have to look into that. But thank you very much. And why did Bush Sr. refuse to brief President Carter on UFOs? I don't know. I don't know. Although we do know that the Bush family is part of the cabal, the deep state, and Jimmy Carter, not so much. So I think he was considered an outsider. He wasn't part of the Skull and Bones Society, fraternity. So I think he got left out in the cold. And let's see what else we got. Well, Gilbert is saying the Sumerian people tell a different tale about the creation of man and my thoughts. Well, I've encountered a good bit of flack for my stand on this. But here are the facts from my perspective. Zachariah Sitchin was a wannabe linguist. He did not know Sumerian. His translations are mostly imaginary. Actual linguists, and I know that establishments, scientists, and academicians put down anybody who's treading into their territory. I know that. But there's such a uniform outcry against them from actual professional linguists who are not only fluent in reading Sumerian, but actually speak it. And they just shake their heads and going, why are you people reading this? It's garbage. So that said, I think that there was a free interchange that rather than this ancient alien thing, that we are the aliens, that we settled Mars and indeed elsewhere in the solar system and the universe millennia ago as part of various extinction level events on the various planets, including Earth. And that the Sumerians and the Egyptians just kind of popped up out of nowhere, fully formed with agriculture, medicine, science, hydrology, architecture, engineering. I mean, there's no ramp up to those civilizations. So there's something going on there that we need to be thinking about. Ramona says, I'd like to know how a map that was drawn 1100 and 1200 showed Antarctica, Hawaiian type landscape. Well, that's interesting. And one of the maps you're talking about there, Ramona, is the Piri-Reis map, which I believe dates to the very early 1500s. And he was a cartographer, very well known, and a cartographer that navigators relied upon back in the day. He was the Google Earth of the day. And his rendition of Antarctica shows the landmass without any ice and is extremely accurate. We were only able to determine the landform of Antarctica in the latter 20th century as we developed radar techniques and other techniques for ascertaining what the actual landmass looked like. So how did he do it? Well, he actually copied maps, much earlier maps. And when you stop and think about the libraries that have been burned, the Library of Alexandria, oh my gosh, what an unbelievable loss to mankind. The knowledge that was contained there would have answered all our questions, and we would probably be living a very different lifestyle nowadays if that hadn't happened. And Earl is asking, do you believe the chemtrails are part of the plan to make us have nanoparticles in us and also be used with the AI 5G? It's entirely possible. I know that their cover story for it. First of all, folks, my sister was talking about chemtrails 25 years ago, and we thought she was Looney Tunes now. But chemtrails are a proven fact now. We have videos and images from inside the tankers. We have exterior footage, interior footage, pilot footage, the way the cockpits are set up to release the barium and aluminum oxide and all these other things that are deadly cancerous to humans. They maintain their cover story, well, we're trying to cool the Earth because you know we have global warming, don't you? All the science points that way. And so they're trying to save the Earth. But really, I think it's part of a global agenda to cut the population way down. So, yeah, there are nanoparticles there. I believe eventually they'll have nanobots that we'll be able to breathe. They can just release them, and those things can enter our system, and then we're hooked into the AI global web. When the AI finally becomes sentient, as in the Terminator series, but it will happen. And at that point, how can you fight that beast? Where can you go that it doesn't know? It knows everything about you. It can anticipate everything about you. It can track you anywhere you go. Doesn't matter where you go. And it can cut off your ability to purchase, your ability to eat, your ability to drive, your ability to compute, your ability to finance, it's really pretty scary. And what I understand from some of the things I've researched is that the two biggest obstacles for a civilization to clear, to get out of the level 0 civilization and make it to a grade 1 civilization, is first of all avoiding nuclear catastrophe, or biological as well. And secondly is surviving an AI global internet. So those are two things that are maybe ought to be a little higher on our priority list. you know. Okay. Well, I am speaking out a little bit, Earl. Let me stress the fact that much of what I'm telling you is speculation based upon reading and study and research. I'm a voluminous reader. When I'm on my regular schedule, I'll read at least 2 books a week, sometimes 5. That's tapered off a bit because of a nerve condition I have. I can no longer hold books, so I use my phone, or I use my pad to read, and actually I like it a lot better. So I'm not reading quite as many books as I used to, but I read a lot, and I do a lot of research on the side. And I think it's safe to speculate in certain directions. Do I know this to be true? No. I'm just basing my speculation on what seems reasonable and prudent to extrapolate from what I've gleaned from my research. And and the Colonel says, I read 3 Sitchin's book. He tells the story, but presents absolutely no archaeological or linguistic data to support it. And yes, this is a problem from other professionals in the field. Here's the thing. It's like on my Facebook page or on the channel. Cite your work. That's the first step in any scientific research, is cite your work. So you can look at my videos, and you can go down in the description, you can click on the links, and you can go directly to each image that was included in the video, and you can see for yourself if I've falsified anything or exaggerated anything. I never knowingly do that. I'll adjust the contrast. I'll sharpen the picture up a bit so it's a little easier to see. Things like that, but I never materially alter the image. So citation is very important. He doesn't, to my knowledge, Sitchin doesn't, to my knowledge, cite his work, nor does he cite his sources. From a scholastic standpoint, he's a duffer. And I'm sorry if I've hurt any feelings out there. You can go ahead and be mad at me if you like. I understand. Everybody has their opinions and their camps that they fall into. Folks, all I'm interested in is the truth. I don't want to be a big shot on YouTube, and I never will be at this rate. I guarantee it. I'm not real worried about money. I mean, yeah, I started a Patreon account because that'll help offset some of the time and expenses that I'm incurring. And I want to eventually be able to afford the equipment I need to do this show live in 3D at the conferences. So that's my motivation there. But truth is very, very important to me. And there are channels out there, as you know, that really manipulate images just to get clicks, clickbait. And that disgusts me. Time is too short to play games like that. Let's figure out what's really happening and present truth. I believe we can handle it, don't you? Okay, let me catch up with a few more of these. Well, Lucky, thank you. Thank you. He went and subscribed to Mars, the Second Genesis, and I'd urge all of you to wander over there, have a look, at Alan's videos, and you're grown-ups. You can decide if that information is worthwhile to you. I think it is. I certainly subscribed, and I'd like to see his channel grow. And he's going to start doing X3D real soon. Now, the real Jamie Roberts 1 has started doing X3D, and I helped him to the extent I could. But he is such a smart dude. Don't let his accent put you off. That boy is a combination of Andy Griffith and Carl Sagan. He knows what he's talking about, and he's darn good at everything he does. And so I basically just showed him some basics about X3D, and he took that ball and ran with it. And the same thing with Alan. He's a 30-year expert at Photoshop. Alexander Leah, he's not presenting so much yet. He presents on my Facebook site, but he's not doing any videos. I would like to see it catch on, and I'm very willing to help anybody who needs a little push in the right direction with the X3D. So let's catch up with a few more things. And Roddenberry and Spielberg both had contracts in the government. Bingo. Earl, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Elon Musk, red line saying Elon Musk, filling space with temporary junk and hundreds of satellites every mission. You're exactly right. And this may make me kind of a semi-bad guy, but I like Elon Musk. And I already invested up front in Starlink because I'm sick to death of Verizon and all the other providers who rip you off and overcharge you, and then when you try to quit, they make it next to impossible. So if his Starlink is as good as we think it's going to be, we can kiss all those suckers goodbye and have some kind of internet that's really, really great. So maybe I'll regret that somewhere down the road. And if I do, you can all text me and say, I told you so, dummy. So let's see. Elon Musk says there is no evidence of aliens. That's because he hasn't found it yet. He gets people up there on Mars and he starts finding stuff. Trust me, I think he'll blab. I don't think he owes anything to the government. He's done it all on his own. And I think he'll be very proud if they haven't gone to full disclosure by then, to be the first one to say, hey everybody, look what I found. And let's see, what else have we got? And Tony's asking, what are my thoughts on how our technology / medical and universe knowledge has exploded in the last 150 years or so, when for thousands of years we were using basic items. Well, bear in mind that for literally 5,000 or 6,000 years, our light was fire, our transportation was horses, chariots and wagons and other things like that. Our communication was analog and had to be carried. That's why the Pony Express was such an outrageous invention. Nobody even could imagine mail going that distance inside of a week. That's amazing. But then with the Industrial Revolution in the late 1800s and the advent of steam, and which was picked up by industry everywhere for every indication or application you could imagine. And there was this big surge to embrace science. That was Darwin's time. That was H.G. Wells' time, Jules Verne time. People that invented the various steam engines. When they joined the coast to coast with drove the Golden Spike for the Intercontinental Railroad. That was like a moonshot. Okay, that was huge news. And speculation is that after the Roswell crash, we back engineered transistors and fiber optics, and that formed the basis of our digital engineering explosion in the 50s and 60s. I remember when transistor radios came out and we were mind blown because I grew up with a floor cabinet, one of those big old glowing things. Boy, I wish I had it now. What a cool radio. But, you had a radio you could put in your pocket. Are you kidding me? And of course, when the computer age came in, then there's that exponential growth. What is it they say the growth curve is? It doubles every 6 months. So we've grown exponentially just in the last 50 years or so, and it'll continue to go that way. The My dad, who worked on classified projects for the government at U.S. Army Weapons Command, he worked on some of the early laser designators and robots, things of that nature. And I asked him once, uh, when I dared to, because he was a scary guy. I said, "How far ahead is the government actually between what they tell us and what they still have classified?" Well, at that time, which was in the mid 60s, he said, "Well, they're at least 15 years ahead." Well, now when you talk to people on the inside, they say the government is 150 to 200 years ahead of where we are now. So it makes that very easy to believe that there is a secret space force, that there is technology, Star Trek type technology like jump rooms and transporters and warp drive and time travel and jump gates, stargates, that type of thing. It makes it a lot easier to believe. And but as long as the cabal controls the planet, the old families who are unbelievably wealthy and who actually run this planet, um, we're not going to see Jack. And we're not going to see Jack until and unless they're guaranteed immunity from crimes against humanity. Because the fact of the matter is that if there was full disclosure that the mass populace of people everywhere on the planet would want to string all these folks up. They don't want that any more than you or I would want it. Nor do they want to lose their power in the game they play. So who knows how it's going to turn out? I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping that good prevails over evil, as we're promised time and time again. And by the way, I did read the back of the book and we do win. Okay, let's see. Hey, Boysenberry Dracula. What a great name. Dude, let's see. Australia is 17 hours either ahead or behind GMT. No, it's ahead. GMT plus 17. So, and I'm GMT minus 5. So he's 22 hours ahead of me. So that would make it about 9:30 in the morning, Boysenberry. Does that sound about right? Amazing. What a way to start the day. And, well, thoughts on so much fruit originating from the Fertile Crescent, seeded by starfolk, maybe. Well, Graham Hancock's Fingerprints of the Gods, goes into some detail about the Younger Dryas event, which was a comet striking a glancing blow to the Earth some 11,000 years ago. And it caused catastrophic melting of the ice caps, catastrophic earthquakes, tsunamis, floods. As a matter of fact, I think this is the explanation for the Great Flood, Noah's flood. And I think that most life was indeed wiped out on Earth. We know there's some 270 flood traditions in cultures around the world. So I think we're a traumatized race that's experiencing amnesia. There have been many global disasters. Just read the book of Hopi, the Hopi Indians, the Greeks, who said there have been 5 complete annihilations of the planet prior to when they came along, which was told to them by I think by the Egyptians, something like that. Maybe there's Greeks telling someone else. I don't know. But anyway, the point being that after those waters receded, the and the axis had settled down on the Earth, and the crust had quit shifting like crazy, that the new tropical zone was where the Mediterranean is. And it would have been one of the first places that people inhabited and flocked to, and to rebuild their lives and begin agriculture. And yeah, so I think fruits and vegetables and indeed people came from there. It's interesting that L.A. Marzulli has done DNA research on the Paracas skulls, and they clearly come back. First of all, the skulls are not human, and they're not made by cradle boarding. They're done by, they're not done anyway. That's not how they are, because the foramen magnum, the hole that the spine goes in at the base of the skull, is way forward to balance the skull. And you can't do that with cradle boarding. Anyway, their origin DNA is haploid group 2, which places them squarely in the Middle East in ancient times. So yeah, I think life, the regeneration of life came from there, the survivors of the flood. And yeah, I think that underground bases, I personally think, and this is my speculation, I don't ask anybody to believe me. It's just what I've read and studied and watched. But I think we've been on Mars since the 60s. Now, there is a video of an Apollo project landing on Mars, and that's been shown to be fake. And people send that to me all the time saying, look at this. And it's like, I'm sorry, that's not real. I want real. But that said, yeah, I think we've been on Mars for 60 years, that we have underground bases there, that I have seen evidence of farming on the surface, certainly seen evidence of other kinds of work. So I think we have a presence on Mars. Okay, what else have we got here? Boysenberry Dracula. Okay, 11:23 a.m. Thank you, my friend. Took me a few minutes to catch up with you. So that a.m. So that would make it 12 plus 4, 16 hours. You're 16 hours ahead of me. So you're GMT plus 11, right? Something like that. Anyway, I'm thrilled that you're with us. I've always wanted to visit Australia and Tasmania and New Zealand. What amazing countries. That's on my bucket list before I go and take a dirt nap. And yeah, fun to talk to people in the future. Those of you down in Australia and inhabit Mars. Nah, you didn't miss anything. You didn't get the notification. You have to click the bell 2 times, man, to get the notification. And then even then, you can't count on YouTube to tell you. But here's our plan. I'm going to try to do a live hang every Tuesday evening at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, which is GMT minus 5. So be here or drink beer, one of the others. And my volume is low. Okay. Is anybody else noticing that? I'm going to slip in here and I'm going to bump it up about 10 dB and get it into the yellow range. I don't know if that's any better or not. Yeah, those Paracas skulls are really something, aren't they? I remember the first time I saw those years ago, and I was just dumbfounded. And I was like, oh my gosh, man, this is true. And I was already familiar with cradle boarding. I mean, I grew up in the Midwest, and we have all kinds of Indian artifacts and museums where you can see cradle boarding. And I have a giant salad bowl full of arrowheads that I found as a kid, still back in Iowa. I don't know why I haven't brought them with me. I should, because they're cool. It's so cool. We used to walk to school, and back when our division was freshly built, this would have been in 1956, and there'd be heavy rainstorms would wash out the gullies and the dirt they cleared. And we'd always find arrowheads every time. Just going to and from school, we'd find arrowheads. And I remember I found a bird point one time. This was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. It was the size of my little fingernail. And it was absolutely meticulously chipped, a perfect little teeny tiny arrowhead. And of course, I lost it. But, oh well, things come and go. And good to see you, Colonel. Thanks. I'm sorry you're leaving us, and hope you choose to join us again on some of the future hangs. It's always an honor to have you present, sir. He's, and I can't pronounce his name. I'm going to try. I'm going to try to have it ready next time. He's a colonel in I believe, the Brazilian Air Force. And we did a live Zoom down in Brazil with a bunch of his colleagues. And they asked me a bunch of questions, and it was really neat people. And there's a lot of interest down there because they have an absolute truckload of UFO sightings down there. And so let's see. Oh, it works out for Inhabit Mars. That's cool. That is cool. And yeah, and since the 60s, that sounds about right. You know, there's been so much that's gone down since the 60s. I don't know if it's even possible to really keep up with the technology nowadays. It's changing so quickly. I've invested, and I mentioned this last time, I've invested in the looking glass technology, which is a true holographic display, which you can buy in any number of sizes. And you can turn any picture into a hologram, but you can, more importantly, take stereo photos with your iPhone and make fabulous holograms. And I mean, they're the real deal. I mean, you can look around in back of them, and you can make holographic videos. Very, very cool technology. So I'm hoping to learn more about that. Come April or May, they're going to ship the investors' goodies around that time. And I have a full report on that at some point. Also, I wanted to ask you guys a question. Would you be interested in a tutorial on stereo photo maker, or is that just boring? I don't know. It's not hard. I have to figure out how to do it, how to record the screen and do all that stuff. But for those of you who are thinking about getting into stereo photography, let me tell you, you can take stereo photos right now with your iPhone or your Android. It's called the cha-cha method. And all you do, you can't do moving objects with this, like trees and flowers in the wind, waves, but anything still comes out great. And in fact, there are a lot of people that post cha-chas on my on my Facebook site, Magic Window X3D. And you just take one shot and then move the camera over to the right about 2 inches. Take another one. Take it back, put it in the stereo photo maker, align them, process them, set the window, and use your after processing, however you want to do that. And you've got a gorgeous 3D picture. My Magic Window X3D, I just posted a day or so ago a shot I took off my back porch of the heavy snowfall. And it was really a pretty day. It was kind of this bluish purple cast over everything, fluffy snow piled and everything. And that was done with an iPhone, with the cha-cha method. And it comes out perfect. So you don't need to invest in a stereo camera. You can do all this stuff yourself. Okay, let's see. Yes. There's AKA Man. Hi, how are you, man? Do you believe that most planets have some form of life, even if we might not understand it as life? I think that's entirely possible. Yeah, I think that's possible. Again, I believe life is a prime directive. Life will always find a way to manifest in some fashion. I'm excited about Enceladus and some of the other moons, Dione, that have planetary oceans beneath the ice. And you know there's a thermocline there. There's going to be a level where the temperature is perfect for life. And we know all the minerals are present. Now, I personally don't believe in evolution. I believe, besides my personal religious beliefs, I believe that undirected panspermia is a reality. I think because they found microbes and proto-life in all kinds of meteorites and on comets, and they found tardigrades on the outside of the International Space Station that can survive the environment, the radiation and the heat and the cold and all that stuff. So yeah, I think we're going to find life everywhere we go. And what do I think about Apollo 18, 19, 20? I don't know. I don't know for a fact that that happened. It'd be pretty cool if it did, but I don't know. There's not enough good hard evidence to point to that being a reality. Perhaps one day it'll be known. Maybe they'll share it with us. Who knows? And yeah, of course we have them. And this is Tony asking, do you think we have one or a multi-universe? Yeah, we have a multi-universe. The current astrophysics model of the universe is kind of like soap bubbles in your bath. They're bunches of bubbles, all kind of touching each other, but not interpenetrating each other, going in infinite directions. And I believe, first of all, that we are eternal beings. We are eternal souls. As such, we have tremendous value to someone, if only to ourselves, but I think there's more involved than that. And I believe that just as life is a prime directive, I believe that every thought, every choice, every decision, every moment of our lives, when we're making choices, even at a subconscious level, that we split off and form another reality, a parallel or divergent reality to our own, where every single possibility is explored to its fullest. Now, some of you are familiar with the Mandela Effect, which I believe is true, based on some of the things I've found, which really set me back. Some people think it's because of the experimentation going on at CERN, at the Large Hadron Collider. Other people feel that the 50-acre quantum computer server farm that the CIA built out in Utah is having profound effect on our reality line. I think that's a reality. So yeah, I think these universes are born of consciousness, of mass consciousness in each separate universe. And they bubble off, they split off, and they foam. They foam. So, but that's a real rabbit hole to go down. I could talk about it. I did dream research for over 30 years. Someday maybe I'll talk about that, but it's not for tonight. Trust me on that one. Alan, I am using OBS as my live streaming platform. It took me a heck of a long time to figure it out because there's so many different versions of the settings and what you should do. But I actually had been doing everything right. It was just that my latency was in the crapper because of Verizon. And as soon as I'm doing this on my Jetpack, a high-speed data feed, and it works just fine. So not a problem there. But well, that's nice, Boysenberry Dracula. Yeah, I'm sure other people have said before that life is a prime directive. I've never heard it before. But I was early on working on some of my very early videos, which are in the playlists on my channel, The Dirty Dozen and other X3D, some X3D videos. And I was finding more and more and more anomalies, and I was in the middle of viewing something in X3D, and it was kind of a voice spoke in my head. I mean, I didn't hear a voice, but it was like a voice spoke in my head that said, life is a prime directive. And it was like presented into my head. I was like, well, duh. That sure makes sense, doesn't it? At least to me. But who knows? I can do screen capture with OBS. I haven't learned how to do that yet, Alan. I'm just barely got on air last week with OBS. It's going to take me a while to figure out all the bells and whistles on this thing. I need a little shot of bourbon here. Jackie Gleason used to say how sweet it is. But yeah, I worked with a sax player who was in the Les Brown band on the Gleason show. We had a nightclub down in Fort Lauderdale called Anti-Mames, or Auntie-Mame if you're from New England. And it was one hell of a club. We had one hell of a band. We won all kinds of awards, and that place was something else. I'm sure it was still around. But let's see. How do you feel about the notion of our planet being seeded by a higher intelligence? I can't discount that possibility. And while I am not an avid fan of the ancient aliens way of thinking, bear in mind, folks, all those shows are about entertainment and money. They're not about science. And they make a lot of real wild leaps of conjecture in that show. But that said, you can't rule it out. I think that panspermia is a dynamic that's present throughout the universe. We know that we've had meteorites found in Antarctica from Mars, and there was that big hoodoo back in, 96 was it? Where they thought they'd found some protobacteria inside a meteorite. And, I think that it's entirely possible as planets undergo asteroid hits or dissolution or whatever happens, that there are rocks floating around that have life within them, the seeds of life, and that they come down as meteorites and, either take hold or don't. It just depends on the environment. So I think, again, life is a prime directive. I think that's a dynamic that's been purposely put into the creation of the universe to make sure life spreads everywhere it possibly can. First of all, I'd like to find signs of higher intelligence on Earth. There actually are some really enlightened people, some really amazing people. I'm fortunate to know some of them, a few of them. Great beings. In India, the term, when I was studying over there, was avadut. It's spelled A-V-A-D-H-U-T, avadut. And that was a person who had completely gone beyond the bounds of human norms through meditation, had become entirely self-realized, and had ascended to such great heights of spiritual development that they didn't fit into society at all. Some of them appeared crazy, but all of them were remarkable beings, avaduts, and they're still on the planet. Okay, I think we're advanced in taking a human body for a quick life, a quick salty life for extreme contrast and growth. Well, let's face it, folks, we're meat puppets, aren't we? That's what we are. We're meat puppets. We're an eternal soul inhabiting this meat puppet for a period of time. And we undergo experience. And we experience this wonderful emotions and all the negative and positive things that can happen to a person. And then what we do with that is what grows us as a soul, as a spirit, as we reconcile and understand and quit creating things that end up as either good or bad. We stop the swing of the pendulum, so to speak. And I think it's possible that, well, I don't know. I just don't know. Rather than go too far out on a limb, I'll just leave that one right there where it is. And we're going to wrap it up here in a minute or two, folks. I want to keep these videos down to no more than an hour and a quarter because Who's going to watch? You know, I love live hangs and things, but I don't have 3 hours to watch one, or 2 hours or 4 hours. I just don't have that time to just sit and watch a live hang for hours and hours and hours. So I want to keep it hopefully watchable in terms of its length and hopefully watchable in terms of its content as well. But I'm diving down here to read some more comments. Yeah, that's a good point. In Heaven Mars says he believes that shows like Ancient Aliens never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Ain't that the truth? And hello, Planetary Protector. Sorry you're getting in the game a little bit late. We're going to sign off here in just a minute. And AKA Man likes the term meat sacks himself. Well, as I'm getting older, that's a more accurate description of what I am. But keeping that meat puppet, keeping those strings happening, that's where it's all at, man. That's where it's all at. One more question from Don Benker. I hope I pronounced your name right. Is that a South African name? Bank? I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it, Don. I'm sorry. He says, do you have any links to any of your music? Folks, I don't know that you'd like my music. I was never hip. Although I played rock and I played a lot of swing and stuff like that. I was mostly a studio musician. I played in show bands. You can look up the Black Dogs on YouTube. I toured with that group for 25 years. Or you can look up Music City Tonight with my name. I did a guest appearance on that show and did a dog and pony thing where I played yakety tuba and blew myself up. And, I have a bunches of CDs, but, that stuff doesn't sell to people. I mostly played things I wanted to play. I played a lot of swing. I played in jazz. I played bass too, and I love playing in a jazz trio or quartet. I also played tuba, and I was a jazz tuba player, studio player, and contractor, and band leader, and band sideman, and all of that stuff. I spent over 50 years just having a ball doing that. And of course, I lived about 3 parallel lives the entire time. Music was never enough, although it certainly filled my life. I was doing a lot of other things as well and getting fully involved in them. So no, the short answer is nah, not really. I don't have any links. You can look some things up on YouTube with my name or with the Black Dogs, and you may see some stuff, but it's mostly like traditional jazz and swamp music is what we called it, swamp jazz. The type of thing I would do would be like play the Ray Charles show when they do a special appearance at the Grand Floridian, say, or at the MGM Grand in Orlando. And I'd be the tuba player or bass player on that 14-piece big band, and had some astounding experiences doing stuff like that. But not all that much recordings. I was with a group called the Don Ellis Band years ago. We did French Connection too. It was a polyrhythmic jazz big band. State of the art, man. That was cutting edge back in the day. Nobody could do it. And it was a great privilege to play in that band. And let's see. And Daryl Sims says they're a craft 800 miles long. Yeah, there's no limitation on size and space, is there? Because they're not launching them. If you build them in space, they don't have to be streamlined. And they can be as big as you feel like making them. Or you can build, giant modular units and tack them all together. They say that the troop carriers for the SSP are 2 and 3 kilometers long. And I believe it. I mean, look how much the International Space Station has grown. That thing is huge. You can see it with your naked eye, no problem, when it passes overhead. So yeah, I believe they get big. And Ramona says she played swing and marches most of the time, favorites of our band leader back in the 60s. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm a child of the 50s and 60s. And Anyway, Don, thanks. She says, thanks. I'll dig around and see what I can find. So, folks, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap things up for the evening. Thank you so much for coming by. I'm truly honored that you decided to spend a little time with me. Thank you very much. And we have a new episode going up Friday midnight with some really strange stuff in it. I hope you like it. And of course, we'll live hang again next Tuesday night, 6:30 Eastern Time, GMT -5. So this is your buddy Dave over at Mars X3D. Be well.